Another bias that we have to intentionally interrupt, our tendency to present the strongest version of ourselves to the outside world. Okay? Now, think about this. Imagine you go to the kids in your class, and you say to the kids in your class, anytime you guys don't understand something, I want you to hide it from me. I don't want you to not understand, you know? Don't ever tell me. Keep it a secret. I want you to pretend to understand so that I don't know what you don't understand. That would make for a pretty challenging classroom environment to teach in. But that is exactly what we do in the context of professional learning. There is a bias that forces and encourages us to hide our vulnerability, to present only the strongest version of ourselves to the outside world, and to hide the weaknesses. Now, this cognitive bias comes with an evil twin. And the evil twin is called the imposter syndrome. Now, the imposter syndrome that I rewrite about is this little voice we all have inside of us that tells us, I don't know how I got to be where I am, but I hope no one finds me out. Because I'm just figuring out as I go. Now, the genius of the imposter syndrome, the insidiousness of the imposter syndrome, is it makes you believe like you're the only one. You think everybody's got their whole thing going on, and you're the only one who just doesn't know. Now, let's think about this. What does that make you do? In the context of a professional learning community encounter, are you the one putting up your hand and saying, help me understand, I don't know? Not a chance, right? So the implications of this is it leads us to privatize our practice and to become defensive when we're challenged, both of which get in the way of the kind of collaborative inquiry that challenges thinking in practice, okay? It's problematic. What's the inch that we need to go deep on? And then they're talking about the components of balanced literacy. And eventually the principal goes like this. She says, time out. She goes, I have to make an admission. She says, I've been a principal for 5 years. I've been a teacher for 15 years before that. And for as long as I've been in this district, we've been going on about balanced literacy. And for as long as we've been going on about balanced literacy, we've talked about the importance of guided reading. She said, I have to be honest with you. I have to come clean. I don't know what the hell guided reading is. She says, other than the fact that you guys have got your kids sitting at purple, and it's purple plastic half-moon tables that we bought for you last summer, I don't know what guided reading is. You could feel the tension evaporate from the room. Because here was a principal who was willing to say, I don't know. And she was willing to say, I don't know, in a place where everybody expected her to know. How can you be the leader of the building? How could you possibly have gotten to be where you are if you don't know what guided reading is? And by doing that, she gave people permission not to know. And when you have permission to not know, you have permission to learn. It was so powerful, because then it started falling like dominoes. Me neither, me neither, me neither. You know? Which, when you look at the literature, is actually not a surprise, because it's one of the most least understood and poorly implemented of the things that we do. But so much time had passed that we felt like you couldn't say, I don't know. But back to the concept of the learning community. What does the L stand for? Learning. You have to know that you need to know before you can learn. And in that case, there was about permission. So when you are focused on hiding your vulnerability, you teach in classrooms with doors closed. If the classrooms have got a little window, you put brown paper up. If people say to you, why is there brown paper up? You say, well, it's for when we have a lockdown. Okay? But the whole concept of the learning community says, bring the kid to the table that you don't know what to do with. Think about what was the first step in the inquiry framework. What's your challenge and practice and why? By definition, it's something you don't know how to do. If you know how to do it, don't put it there. So as much as you think this is a nonsensical bias, it operates horrifically by keeping practice private, by not allowing our understandings to be transparent. And because of that, we are afraid to make mistakes because we think if we make mistakes, we will be found out. And the imposter syndrome doesn't like that, because if they find me out, that's bad news. But yet, if you go back to that definition, through our investigations, proposed solutions emerge that are then tested to see if they help. I don't know it's best practice, I only know it's next practice. But if I'm risk averse, I won't try something new. And if my practice is private, I won't say I don't know. So how can you learn? We have to intentionally interrupt this particular bias.